Okay. So next today we have something a little different actually to share with everyone. We have Mavin Khoo and Poornima Sathish in what we have called a digital rendezvous. Mavin Khoo or Mavin is known very well to some of us and maybe a little less to some others. He was a student of Bharatanatyam at the Temple of Fine Arts, Kuala Lumpur, in the early days, where he actually studied under our very own Vasuki teacher. He then moved on to India to further his education with Guru Adyar Lakshman. After which, Mavin moved on to London to further his education and general practice in dance. Today, Mavin is a really, really well known and highly regarded, much sought after Indian classical and Western contemporary dancer. Mavin is equally known and highly regarded in the Indian classical and Western dance fraternity. At a more to home to us, Mavin is very, very special to us in that his formative years were at the Temple of Fine Arts during a time when the institution was in a very early phase of growth. Today, he remains very connected to Somji's values for the Temple of Fine Arts and has worked on numerous projects with the institution. Recently, he created an all-male Bharatanatyam production in collaboration with the Temple of Fine Arts, which was then presented at the prestigious Darbar Festival in London, United Kingdom. So Mavin is while he continues to do all the amazing, wonderful work that he does in the field of art in a very high caliber world in London and India and beyond, he's very much close to us and works very closely with us in many of our productions and works. We really thank him for joining us today, and we hope this experience is as amazing as it is for us as it is to him. With him today is our own Poornima, who you just watched earlier today with the children's Saksan, who is a Carnatic vocal teacher in TFA Singapore and also an amazing performing artist of her own right. She trained initially in TFA Singapore, after which she went under the guidance of Guru Srimati Bombay Jayashri to further her training in Carnatic music, singing, vocal. Mavin and Poornima have performed together quite often and very extensively, and they have an excellent chemistry together on stage. Even for some of us who have watched him, and any of you who watch them together will see the amazing way in which the both of them communicate with each other and improvise with each other on stage. Something that is truly special, actually, if for anyone who is lucky enough to be in that environment when they are performing together on stage. So today, however, this chemistry is going to be challenged a little. Things are going to be quite different for them in that Mavin is sitting in his flat in London, isolating from as the law requires him to in London, while Poornima is sitting in her apartment in Singapore, and they will take us on a digital rendezvous and perhaps a chance for us to see how technology can enable the impossible, but perhaps still have its own limitations. So let's see. So yes, I think I've been speaking for quite a while now. So I'm going to finish up there by saying, yes, thank you, Mavin. Thank you, Purnima. I'll pass you over to them. And Hari Om.
Hari Om. I'll just start with Poornima. We'll just say prayers to begin with together. Yeah.
Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Sarvamangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadhike Sharanye Triambake Gauri Narayani Namostute Om Dum Durgaye Namaha Om Dum Durgaye Namaha Om Dum Durgaye Namaha ॐ ह्रीं शान्तानन्दहंसाय विद्महे परमहंसाय धीमहि तन्नो हंसः प्रचोदयात् ॐ ह्रीं शान्तानन्दहंसाय विद्महे परमहंसाय धीमहि तन्नो हंसः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ ह्रीं शान्तानन्दहंसाय विद्महे परमहंसाय धीमहि तन्नो हंसः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ।
So, friends, today is an unusual presentation. As Kamlesh said, I'm in London at the moment. Poornima is in Singapore, and we are exploring something that I hope reaches out to many of you all over the world. So we're going to take you through um, really what the two of us have been developing over many years now. Poornima is a very crucial, very crucial collaborator in my development as a Bharatanatyam artist. She has been singing for me in Chennai, I think, for Poornima, what, 8 years, 10 years?
8 years, Anna.
8 years now. And dancing in Chennai for me is always the most demanding because I always made a choice not to overperform in Chennai. So therefore, whenever I perform in Chennai, the expectation is very high, and it's for me my testing space always to see where my direction is going, if it's going in the right direction. And so Poornima has been so a part of that process, and so she's very integral to me, and I feel very uh, uh, I can say I feel very paternal towards her, and very protective, and also very much in gratitude for what she offers my dancing. And so I thought today we will explore a few Abhinaya pieces depending on the time and depending on how we get on today, that for me also trace a journey in my own history and my own relationship to Temple of Fine Arts, to Swamiji, and my own growth. I want to start with actually a very simple piece. It's a piece that many of us do as children. So when I was just had an interview yesterday, and I was talking about, someone asked me about one of my first memories, and actually one of my first memories that is so clear in my head was my first dance class, which was on a Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. If some of you can remember the old Temple of Fine Arts, it was in the classroom down under the basement, and it was with Vatsala Shivadas, Vatsala Shivadas and Vasku teacher were my first two teachers. And I remember my first class where I walked in, and as a small child, I knew that this was what I was going to do for my whole life. And I had to wait between the Tuesday and the Sunday, which was my next class with Vasuki teacher. I had to wait those days before I could do the class again, it was it was so horrible to wait all those days that I decided I wanted to dance every day from that point. And so some of you will remember me as a child. Basically, as soon as the classes started at Fine Arts at 6 o'clock, I would be there. And whether it was my class or not my class, I would be joining all the classes. So that in a few years, I knew all the repertoire. I joined all the seniors or every class um, uh, I was a part of. And this piece that I'm going to show a small excerpt. It's actually the first piece that I ever performed. um, it's a Shabdam, and it's called Sarasi Jakshulu. So all children learn it. Why I wanted to demonstrate it is the words are very simple. It says, those beautiful lotus-eyed girls that go to the river to bathe. At that time, you, Krishna, their beautiful garments, you stole and you kept it up the tree, and you looked at them from above. Is this fair, what you're doing? Now, there's a literal kind of simplicity in that narrative. But why I wanted to do it is, as a child, we kind of invest in it, we investigate it in the simple, literal meaning of it. But of course, there's a deeper philosophical meaning. I remember when I first came to London, where the discourse about how relevant was Indian classical dance, how relevant was it to a young British person in the UK. And I remember someone saying, well, what is the point of, how relevant is Krishna stealing the buttermilk to a young British person? And I remember thinking to myself, well, of course, if your imagination can't go beyond Krishna stealing the buttermilk, then it will always remain Krishna stealing the buttermilk. But the beauty of these mythological narratives are that the simplicity of the story is of only a framework for a much bigger philosophical metaphor. And so this narrative of Krishna with the gopis, when he steals their clothes and he looks and he says to them, uh, they say, come, give us back our clothes. And he says, no, no, no. If you want your clothes, you need to completely offer yourself to me. Remove your hands from covering yourself. And the gopis say, oh my God, what is he saying? That means we'll really be revealing our whole body. But he says, no. If you want your clothes, that's what you need to do. And as they are removing the sophistication and the complexity and the difficulty of the work is in that action of, as they remove their hands and as they, in frustration, resistantly, and then as they look up at him, something in their gaze shifts, and suddenly the relationship between the Paramatma and Jivatma, the surrender, the absolute surrender and the removal of ego happens as they surrender to Krishna at that point. So, as I was saying, as a child, we perform the simple, what we call hand to word. But it's a piece actually that requires, if you consistently keep working at it, it demands a kind of real understanding of the philosophy of surrender to the divine, and the removal of ego, purely by the simple action of lifting your hands in surrender. So I will just do this as just an introduction, also for me and Poornima to warm up. So Purni, Kanal, if you can just sing a bit of Alap and just sing one line of Saraswati Jakshulu, and I will join you.
सरसिजाक्षुलो जलकमाडे तरुणमुननी वर्जटिकी जनी सरिगचेरलो मेल्लचेपनी तरुमुने किट जोचुचुंटुड धर्मवा सरसिजाक्षुलो जलकमाडे तरुणमुननी वर्चटिकी जनी सरिगचेरलो मेल्लचेपनी तरुमुने किट जोचुचुंडुड धर्ममा सरसिजाक्षुलो जलकमाडे तरुणमुननी वर्चटिकी जनी सरिगचेरलो मेल्लचेपनी तरुमुने किट जो జోచుచుండుడ ధర్మమా సరసిజాక్షులు జలకమాడే తరుణమున నీవజకి జని సరిగజేరలో చేకొని తరువు నీకిట జోచుచుండుడ ధర్మమా సరసిజాక్షులు జలకమాడే తరుణమున నీవజకి జని సరిగ చీరలు మెల్ల చేకొని తరువు నేకిట జోచుచుండుడ ధర్మమా సరసిజాక్షులు జలకమాడే తరుణమున నీవజకి జని సరిగ చీరలు చేకుని తరువు నేకిట జోచుచుండుడ ధర్మమా సరసిజాక్షులు జలకమాడే తరుణమున నీవజకి జని సరిగ చీరలో మెల్ల చేకొని తరువునే కిట జోచుచుండుడ ధర్మమా సరసిజాక్షులు జలకమాడే తరుణమున నీవజకి జని సరిగ చీరలో మెల్ల చేకొని తరువునే కిట జోచుచుండుడ ధర్మమా 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 సరసిజాక్షులు జలకమాడే తరుణమున నీవజకి జని సరిగ చీరలు మెల్ల చేకుని తరువు నేకిట జోచుచుండుడ ధర్మమా 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 ఇటు జోచుచుండుడ ఇటు జోచుచుండుడ ధర్మమా ఇటు జోచుచుండుడ ధర్మమా కృష్ణ 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 ధర్మమా ఇటు జోచుచుండుడ ధర్మమా ఇటు జోచుచుండుడ ചുണ്ടുടത മമാ ചുണ്ടുട ധർമ്മമാ.
Beautiful. I hope that's coming across in the camera. Beautiful, Poornima. You know, Poornima and I never set anything, just for anyone to know. So what we do is we have certain musical and physical landmarks. So really the level of improvisation is highly in conversation all the time. It was very beautiful, Kana. The next piece is a Tamil piece. Many of you will know it. And I'm dancing it because for two reasons. I had performed it, I think, in 1997 in a very small theatre in Kuala Lumpur. And in the last minute, we found out that Swamiji was going to come and watch my program. Swamiji, I have to say, many times last minute would turn up for a performance of mine. And in that performance, I was danced Yaro Iva Yaro, which is a piece when Rama and Sita first see each other, their first encounter. I perform it from the perspective of Sita. It's also a very important piece for me because it's the first piece where I started to understand that to develop the psychological understanding of a role, I had the permission and I had the ability to draw from a variety of sources beyond, of course, the main text that I was working from. And I say this because initially, when I started work on the piece, I found Sita a very hard character to access. I couldn't understand my relationship with her, and therefore I found her very complex as an entry point. But then suddenly I remembered that my brother, my second brother, Ruben, had studied for his Form 5 GCSE. He had studied Romeo and Juliet. And in that, my mom, in one of her trips to London, had bought him the VHS copy of the film Romeo and Juliet that was made in the 1960s by Franco Zeffirelli. And in that, there is the actress Olivia Hussey playing Juliet. And I, for some reason, felt I needed to go back to that film. And when I watched it again, for me, suddenly Sita made sense. Sita was Juliet, absolutely. Her background was aristocratic. She had a stubborn willfulness to her. And because of her aristocratic background, the point when she sees Rama from her balcony, being in the privacy of her balcony, allows for a kind of allows for her expressive modes to be much more heightened than when usually it would be because of her background. She can display much more what she is feeling, I felt, in the privacy of her balcony. So I also at that point, I was about 17, 18, I was studying much more seriously classical ballet. And I had fallen very much in love with the ballet Giselle. And in the first act of the ballet, there's a beautiful point where Giselle takes a flower and she plays Love Me, He Loves Me, He Loves Me Not in it. And I found that such a beautiful, simple human action that was so relevant to us. It's a motif that I brought into this moment when she sees Rama. As I said, with Poornima, most of the work is absolutely improvised, but I have little points, landmarks, what I would say, that I introduced into the piece to give it a structure. I also want to just go back to the idea that at this point Sita is very young, and at the same time framed by this aristocratic background, so that the nature of her excitement of first love is a very beautiful exploration. It's in the Raga Bhairavi, which is one of my favorite ragas. Poornima, if you can start with Karo Lavum, just 2 lines of it, and then we go straight into Yaro Vayaru.
Okay.
Thanks, ma.
காருலாவும் ஷீருலாவும் மீதிலையில் காருலாவும் ஷீருலாவும் மீதிலையில் காருலாவும் ஷீருலாவும் மீதிலையில் கன்னி மாடம் தன்னில் யாரோ காருலாவும் ஷேருலாவும் மீதிலையில் கன்னி மாடம் தன்னில் முன்னே நின்றவர் யாரோ இவர் யாரோ என்ன பேரோ 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 இவர் யாரோ என்ன பேரோ யாரோ இவர் யாரோ என்ன பேரோ யாரோ இவர் யாரோ என்ன பேரோ யாரோ இவர் யாரோ என்ன பேரோ அறியேனே யாரோ இவர் யாரோ என்ன பேரோ யாரோ 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 என்ன பேரோ யாரோ யாரோ என்ன பேரோ ஏனே யாரோ இவர் யாரோ என்ன பேரோ யாரோ இவர் யாரோ என்ன பேரோ சந்திரபிம்பமுகமலராலே என்னை தானே பார்க்கிறார் ஒரு காலே சந்திரபிம்பமுகமலராலே என்னை தானே பார்க்கிறார் சந்திரபிம்பமுகமலராலே தானே பார்க்கிறார் ஒரு காலே சந்திரபிம்ப முகமலராலே தானே பார்க்கிறார் ஒரு காலே அந்த நாளில் துந்தம் போலே ஓரோகிறார் அந்த நாளில் துந்தம் போலே ஓரோகிறார் இந்த நாளில் வந்து சேவை தருகிறார் யாரோ அந்த நாளில் துன்பம் போலே ஓரோகிறார் இந்த நாளில் வந்து சேவை தருகிறார் யாரோ இவர் யாரோ என்ன பெயரோ அறியேன் யாரோ இவர் யாரோ என்ன பேரோ அறியேன் யாரோ இவர் யாரோ என்ன பேரோ ராமா 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 யாரோ இவர் யாரோ ராமா யாரோ யாரோ
Interesting there. Very quickly, I just want to say, which is this combination of her inner excitement, her inner adrenaline as a young girl, and at the same time that she is the incarnation of Lakshmi. So that point in the Charanam when Chandra Bimbam comes and she says, is he looking at me? At some point, I feel that we have connected that importance as a dancer and as a musician to combine that adrenaline, that flow of energy and excitement with a particular knowing stillness in the body. That the body is just not at that point busy, that the voice is not just busy, but there's a stillness of knowing that she knows. That is a very important, that's a very important aspect. I think, I don't know, Poornima, whether you feel the same when you're singing it.
I didn't think of that, and I was just following you.
But you know what I mean? There's something very beautiful at that point of that absolute knowingness that she has in those words. The next piece is a very popular piece. Many of you will know it. You know, I come from a time when in fine arts, there were no Arangetrams performed. No one did an Arangetram. So I think the first Arangetram, if I'm not mistaken, and some of you may correct me, was the Arangetram of a dancer called Vinita Nair, which I still remember very clearly in the PJ Civic Center. And part of her program, which was conducted by a wonderful Surya Kalaka, um, uh, in the program, she had performed a piece that many of us musically know, which is Krishnani Begane Baro. And it's very interesting how sometimes that performance has always left a mark in my head for some reason. I guess there's something in the symbolism of it being the first Arangetram in fine arts, but there was also something so much for me about the voice of Surya Kalaka singing this particular piece. And I've known this piece for so many years. Of course, we've all known it as a famous piece for Bala Saraswati, and belonging to that Veena Dhanamal Bani. But something about that particular performance with Surya Kalaka left such a mark on me. I didn't start dancing the piece until many years later, because although I loved the piece, I always say that you shouldn't dance a piece unless you feel you have something that you can offer it. And so it was much later that I found that I could have an access into that kind of maternal understanding of love. Also, when I dance it now, I very much think very specifically of many of you know I work very closely with Akram Khan, and so many times I imagine his little boy in it. One memory that I have very clearly was once in a rehearsal that we were having. Akram's wife, his mom, had bought him a cupcake which had a lot of icing on top. And this little boy basically sat on the floor with his legs open, with the cupcake in between, and he ate all the sugar icing around it. And that image of him, just eating the sugar icing was such a Krishna moment for me. I will never forget this. And so now every time I dance Krishna Vegane, I picture Akram's little son in it. The beauty of this piece, again, like all elements of Abhinaya, is that it is not on one level. Within this, what we call Vatsalyam, within this maternal love that she has for the child Krishna, it is interlaid with this element of bhakti, this element of surrender, and the element of Shingaram. So, to be able to layer the main element, which is Vatsalyam, with the elements of Shingaram, of Bhakti, and the Vatsalyam within it is, I think, the challenge of it. So let's go. Thanks, Poornima. Let's try now.
Baro 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 Krishnani Begane Baro Krishnani Begane Baro Krishnani Begane Baro Krishnani Begane Baro Baro Krishnani Begane Baro Krishnani Varu, Varu, Krishna begane, Varu, Krishna begane, Varu, 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 Krishna begane, Varu, begane, Varu, Mukhavalli Tora, 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 Krishna begane, Varu, 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 Krishna begane, Varu. Kashi ಪೀತಾಂಬರ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕೋಳನು, ಕಾಶಿ ಪೀತಾಂಬರ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕೋಳಲು, ಪುಷಿತ ಶ್ರೀಗಂಧ ಮಯೋಳ ಗಮ್ಮ, ಭೂಷಿತ ಶ್ರೀಗಂಧ ಮಯೋಳ ಗಮ್ಮ, ಕೃಷ್ಣ ನೀ begane, Varu, 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 Krishna ni begane, Varu. ತಾಯಿಗೆ ಬಾಯಲ್ಲಿ ಜಗವನ್ನೇ ತೋರಿದ, ತಾಯಿಗೆ ಬಾಯಲ್ಲಿ ಜಗವನ್ನೇ ತೋರಿದ, ಜಗದ್ದು ಧಾರಕ ಜಗದೋ ಧಾರಕ ನಮ್ಮ ಉಡುಪಿ ಶ್ರೀ ಕೃಷ್ಣ, ಜಗದೋ ಧಾರಕ ನಮ್ಮ ಉಡುಪಿ ಶ್ರೀ ಕೃಷ್ಣ, ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬಾರೋ ಬಾರೋ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ನೀ ಬೇಗನೆ ಬಾರೋ. Krishna Nivegale Krishna 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 Krishna
Thank you, Ma. Thank you. We just have a few minutes for the very last piece. For me, I want to do this piece because it's one of my favorite pieces to do with Poornima. We performed it a lot now. It's also a piece that I think as a journey has taken me from where I've started into the kind of artist I am now, in terms of the choices that I make, in terms of my process, in terms of the direction of intention. But it's also a piece for me that reminds me of Swamiji a lot. Because the Gita Govindam is a space where the relationship between the Jivatma and Paramatma is so framed within this concept of love. And it's so framed between the ambiguity of the divine and the divine in the playful way, the divine in the romantic way, the divine as a lover, the divine as a in a more formal way. The ambiguity of the relationship between the divine and the mortal is, for me, when I think of Swamiji, I think of the many ranges of emotions that many of us have in relation to our relationship with him. I think the Gita Govindam sits very much for me within this frame. So I'm doing very quickly just one of my favorite Ashtapadis, Sakhiye Kesi Madana Mudaram. It's a very complex Ashtapadi to do because in it, the Naika is what I would call the cross between what is a Mukta and a Madhya. She's young and she's also not so young. She is an Parakriya because she's married to another, but she's also an Uttama Naika in this case because she belongs to Krishna in her mind. And what she does is she approaches Krishna, she approaches her friend, her Saki, Lalita, and she says to her that this Krishna, who is the slayer of the demon Keshi, like he has slayed him, he's slaying me with love. So it is now a good time for us to delight in the act of lovemaking. And I'm just going to, Poornima, just do the second verse because of time. So we only do Pratama Samagama.
Okay.
Okay. And in that one verse that we will do, she tells the Saki how in her imagination, the first time that they touched, immediately the moment she touched Lajjam, she started to feel absolutely herself blushing. And as she looked up, there he was talking endless words of seduction. And she, in her listening to his seduction, starts to respond with little sounds, little kind of answers, and without realizing it, suddenly her silk garment from her waist just drops. It's a very beautiful, again, that act of surrender and revealing to the Paramatma is very much a metaphor here. So, Poornima, I will just do the first few lines of Sakhiye and just once the Pratama Samagama, and then we'll finish.
Okay. Sakhiye सखी है केशी मदनम उदारम सखी है केशी मदन मुदारम रमया मया सह मदन मनोरथ भावितया सखी है केशी मदन मुदारम रमया मया सह मदन मनोरथ भावितया स्वीकारं सखी केशी मदन मुदारं रमया मया सह मदन मनोरथ भावितया स्वीकारं सखी सखी है प्रथम समागम न जितया पशु चाटो शतैरनुकूलम् मृदु मधुरास्मित भाषितया शीतलीकृत जघन सखी केशी मदन मुदारं रमया मया सह मदन मनोरथ भावितया स्वीकारं सखी 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 सखी
Thank you. Thank you. So, just to finish off, I just want, there's something about the musicality of the raga that is absolutely crucial here. Poornima, do you mind just singing the Arohanam, Avarohanam of the raga?
Yeah, na. Sarima, sarima, padari sada pa, ma pa ma, re ni re sa. Sari. Another, I don't know what is the Arohanam, Avrohanam, as much as it's made
Yeah.
up of phrases and emotion. So there's no clear cut Arohanam, Avrohanam, or at least I don't know
But
it.
yes, but also something very interesting about the ma, no? The relationship of the ma.
Yes.
Please just explain it, ma.
I think for me, the most beautiful part of this ragam is that ma pa ma pa da pa ma. When it drops from the bigger
Yeah.
ma pa ma, there's a release, there's a weightedness, and then a release, and that's very beautiful about this ragam.
So that's why I asked Poornima to explain is there's something in the taking off and the landing of the note in the raga, which is absolutely important. And what I always say to dancers is, aside from understanding the meaning, aside from understanding the word to word meaning, how much are you able for your body to embody the physicality, the visual physicality of the curves and the spine and the muscles of the notes in the raga? So this element of physicality of the raga, for example, for me, when I'm dancing this piece, demands that my torso, my spine is always slightly lifted and departing and landing all the time, so that the body starts to embody the tone and the spine of the raga in itself. So musicality is absolutely crucial um, in this process, I would say. Um, that combined with um, a deep sense of what the raga represents as well with the text languor, a beautiful sense of languor, of Radha not absolutely uh, walking. She is slightly walking on air, if you like. So these are, in a way, the value systems that I have arrived to, which would not have happened had I not walked the path that I have had before. And it's quite nice for me to do something like this today, where I started off with a piece, literally the first piece I performed as a 7-year-old, and to have that journey with Poornima through this past hour, from that right through where I am today as an artist. Um, and I think what's important, I think, when I was thinking about it today, this relationship uh, of my own dancing with Swamiji, with fine arts. I have many, I'm sure, watching who are elders who have seen me grow up, many who are my contemporaries who I've grown up with, many younger people uh, who know me as who I am now. So it really kind of frames the past, present, and future very much. And with that I've had Poornima with me for all these years as well, has, I think, always anchored a connection to his teachings, his philosophy, and his value system, which, uh, no matter where in the world I am or who I'm dancing with or for, has remained very much an integral part of my personal spine. So, for that, of course, my deepest salutations to him always. And my deepest thanks to my dear Poornima, as always.
No, my pleasure always.
And thank you, everyone, as well.